Greetings, everybody. This is Thunder in the spirit of Geronimo and in the spirit of Crazy Horse, two great warriors. Let's do a little scenario thing today. Let's pretend for a minute, or maybe longer than a minute, that there's a group of people that are sitting around a table. Some are advanced in age, others are younger, more like a mentor to the ones that are advanced in age. And these people are very, very rich. Rich beyond your wildest dreams. So rich that they don't have to worry about money anymore. Money is almost insignificant. And they have everything money can buy. Everything. I'm talking everything. And so they're sitting around this table and they're talking, and they're from different families. And these rich people have come to the conclusion that since they have nothing else to do, because what do you do if you have all the money in the world and if you've experienced everything in the world? What turns you on? What gets you off? Well, I would assume it would be some type of titillation regarding power, and you can couple that power with all kinds of other pleasures that they might buy themselves or procure. But anyway, these people they're sitting around a table and they're having a conference, but it's relaxed, and they got alcohol and they're kicking back, and they're just they're talking and laughing and planning, okay? And so what they're planning is, and there's different names for these people. There's like George and Bill and Vicky and let's see, who else? Warren and whatever. They're all sitting around and they're all talking, and they're all talking about maybe something like how they can control the masses, how they can change situations or morph situations in the world. Let's remember, these people have got all the money in the world, they're rich beyond belief, so they want to sit around and play games. They want to sit around and play games from this high pedestal that they think they're on, that they place themselves on, almost like gods, okay? And they look at people that don't have money, people that are struggling, people that are in the lower class systems, as something to play with, almost like toys, or something to enslave, or something to despise because they feel that, well, they don't have any money, and so they'd be up here with us if they had their shit together. So, as these people sit around the table, they might talk about different things. They might talk about population control. They might talk about how the planet seems to be getting overburdened because there's too many people on the planet. And they might have, excuse me, they might have discussions about how they can thin out the population. Because they're almost beyond looking at people as human. In fact, they are. They have so much money, and they're so full of themselves that they don't even really look at people as being human anymore. in almost subhuman. And so they don't mind if they dispose of a few million people or a few thousand here and a few thousand there. They don't mind that at all. That doesn't bother them. They can murder. They can do anything they want, anything they feel like, because they look at people, again, as subhuman. People that are not in their class, in their category, and they don't have to be intellectual. They just have to be full of themselves. So they come up with different plans, okay, and they use the alphabet agencies that are, because see, these people have so much money, they rule Congress, they rule the president, they rule countries. They buy and sell countries through vehicles like the central banks. They're called the money people. They're called the families, okay? And so, in order to, let's say, complete some type of agenda, they have to manipulate the masses. And this agenda could have to do with, let's say, an eclipse of the old and a bringing about of the new, or this could be in their mind, in their psychopathic minds. They could think that they want to bring about a reset on the earth. Because if the earth is getting overpopulated and more and more people are seemingly useless, because let's say they can't be put into slavery anymore or debt, because the situation has worked itself into, on a financial level, one of the bartering system as we know it, the fiat system, the currency system is unraveling, because it's like, you know, these people sitting around the table have tried different plans and have tried to keep different things going to ensure that they're always on the top of the heap. They're always the richest ones, or the ones in power. But sometimes their plans don't go too well, so they go to another plan. Okay, that they go from plan A to plan B. So if they see that the population is getting out of control, let's say, and they see that there's a lack of jobs because they have farmed out these jobs to other countries and they've done all kinds of manipulations, and so there might not be jobs in this country, but there might be slave labor in another country that's cheaper. So they got all these things going, all these manipulations and all these plans, okay, and operations. And they use the government, and they use the alphabet agencies, the CIA, the FBI, the secret services of different governments. They're all in control of all of those people. And there might be a group of people that are in leagues with another group of people in certain areas of the world, and in contact with other groups of people. And these people that contact each other, make no mistake, they're on this high level of beyond any kind of monetary problems. They're rich beyond belief. They already have power. So they're just sitting around in their deep, dark mentalities, figuring out how they can manipulate the masses, okay? to fit their agenda of being in control and being powerful and being having a vision of how an order of life should be. Let's use the term a new world order or a different order or a renewed order, whatever you want to call it, a reset order. So this is what they do, and they use people and they use agencies and they use governments to accomplish their aims, okay? And in order to stay in power, they realize that money is power, and they realize that they don't have anything to worry about. But when you're on the top of the heap like that, even though you have all the money in the world, you're always thinking about, I wouldn't be here unless I had all the money in the world. And so they devise ways to keep that money flowing and to keep the masses of people enslaved so that that money's flowing, and to tap into resources around the world and the earth and the planet, like oil and mining, okay, and all kinds of different resources, natural resources, and so on. And so it's like different groups of people are doing grabs for different, because you'll have this elite group of people in one country, and in another country you might not have this group of elite people, other than the fact that they have a society. So there might be a group of government officials in another country that aren't on the same wavelength as this group of people over here that are sitting around the table, the Georges and the Vickies. They might have their own round table and their own group of people, but it's tiers here. It's degrees of elevation on a societal level, or the tier, the 2-tier, the 3-tier process. So all these people are sitting around and they're using psychological operations, amongst other things, to control people. To control people. And one of the biggest operations they use, and you can find all this stuff in the Unconventional Warfare Manual, the Manual for Covert Operations. You can find all this stuff in ancient books. You can find all this stuff in deep, dark archives, okay, of the past, present, and the past and present, and the now, the present, the now, same thing. Bear with me here now. So there's certain techniques that are used by what we call the alphabet agencies, or the people that do covert operations, or the hired mercenaries. Now let's take this as an example. Let's say these people are sitting around a table again. We got the people sitting around the table, and they say, okay, well, let's come up with an operation that we're going to proceed with here that'll put us in the driver's seat. I'll try to put this in layman's terms. Put us in the driver's seat for a long time, and let's look at maybe collapsing the system, because it's so bankrupt now worldwide that it would be best just to collapse the system and start over and rebuild over. And yes, a lot of people are going to die, and a lot of people are going to be in misery, and that's okay, because we will depopulate part of the planet and reduce the pressure and the burden of us having to worry about so many people. So they come up with a name, and let's say the name is Operation Slingstone. Yeah, let's call it Operation Slingstone. And whatever that name means is known only to them. It's not something that is spread around. It's known to these few people. Operation Slingstone, and they talk about, yeah, let's call it Operation Slingstone because of this, this, and this. So one of the things that they do is destabilize different areas that they want to gain control in. And one of the other things they do, now there's a whole bunch of things they do, okay? And they use MK Ultra mind control, and they use hypnosis, mass hypnosis. They use brainwashing and propaganda techniques. They use dehumanization of others. Dehumanization is a really, really big one. They use ancient rivalries. This is all right out of the playbook. They use tribal rivalries, just like they used one tribe against another in America when they were decimating the Indians here. They would take tribal rivalries, like they knew that the Lakota and the Crow didn't really get along, and so what did Custer do, or what did the 7th Cavalry do? Well, they hired Crow scouts, okay? Or they turned one tribe even more viciously against the other. It's an age-old thing. And so let's take the Middle East now, because that seems to be where all the action's happening right now. And there always has been some type of action happening there, because there's always been vast resources there. Oil in particular. And so they will use that area, they will use the people from that area, and we see that happening right now. And they will dehumanize the people from that area, and they will use the people from a certain area to fit into their agenda of control of the masses. They always have about 3 objectives that they take care of with one operation, like Operation Slingstone. Now, they'll dehumanize people, and they'll strike fear into people, and they'll do all kinds of things. So one of the things that they have done, let's say, is take a word like terror or terrorism, which is just a word, and use that as what we call in NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, that would be called an anchor, okay? And it could also be called seeding, or planting a seed in somebody's mind, okay? And then once they plant that seed in somebody's mind, it grows. So ever since, let's say, 9/11, this has been the main word, the main buzzword going down out there, terrorism. Now, what happens to a populace as they walk around in society and they're constantly bombarded with a word? And that word is the epitome of fear, okay? Because people think in their minds, they think terror or terrorism, and they become terror-fied or terrified, okay? And it may not be on a conscious level, but if you're walking around and the media is constantly spewing out a word, terrorism, terrorism, we're being attacked, watch out for the bad guys. It could happen any minute. The Middle East are the bad guys. Muslims are the bad guys. Islam is the bad guys. Russia's the bad guys. See, what they do is let's take for instance this Sling operation. These people have decided to go into the Middle East, and they have looked in the past at some of the tribes over there, the Sunnis and the Shiites, and they've seen that there was dissension between them. This is just tribal stuff going on, not things that affect the whole freaking world, okay? Just tribal stuff, local stuff. And we saw back at the beginning of the Iraq war, and around that time period, where we saw a couple of beheadings, okay? And these beheadings, whether they were planned by others or not, at that time were striking fear into people's heart. But even if they weren't planned by others to do this group of people sitting around the table looked at this and said, we can use that. That's something we can use in our shock doctrine of terror here that we are using to control the people. Remember, these people are sitting around planning all this stuff. They're talking about this stuff like they're playing Monopoly or something. And so what they do is they take this group of Middle Eastern people in the Middle East, and they play one against the other, and then they also use these Middle Eastern people as objects of terror for the people, let's say, in the United States or other in the European Union or the European countries. They can use this Operation Sling, and this is what this involves all this stuff I'm talking about. They can use tribal people in the East against one another, okay? And they can go in there and they can send the CIA and mercenaries like Blackwater and others and infiltrate certain groups of factions. Again, this is right out of the Unconventional Warfare Manual, the Covert Manual, the Handbook. And they'll take one faction and turn it against another. So they'll have one group of Middle Eastern people, let's say, for example, moderate terrorists trying to overthrow Syria. That could be a good example. To destabilize Syria so that they can go in there and take a pipeline that might have some oil in it that's a resource to them. But there might be other countries that are looking at this same pipeline, and there might be other people sitting at other round tables, like in the Eurasian area or Russia or China. And so this becomes a major conflict of interest, shall we say. Becomes a major conflict of interest. And so you got two parties going at each other, and you might have one that's little bit on a more moral high ground, and you might have one that is just deep and dark and doesn't have any kind of morals, because the world is made up of different factions of people, and some governments are not as, let's say, permeated with darkness, and others are more permeated, or will pull out all the stops, or won't think about doing anything. Won't have a conscience about doing anything. So this is progressing on here, and so these people that are sitting around this particular round table, Vicky and George and Bill and these guys, they've decided that in order to get this resource, they're going to they're going to turn one tribal faction against another, and they're going to use the tribal factions and religion that is associated with that tribal faction, which in this case would be Islam or Muslim. They will put terrorism, they will put the what I would call the walking chop-o-matics, the guys that chop off heads. They will increase that factor, because they realize that makes people really, really fearful. And so all of a sudden, instead of you seeing a beheading here and there, okay, once in a great while, all of a sudden they put this on steroids, okay, and you got massive beheadings, and people lined up in front of these executioners. And of course, these executioners all look like they just stepped off a Hollywood stage, and they have some of them like it's not like in the old days when you went to look at a terrorist in Iraq or something, and they were all disheveled and dirty, and just like you would, didn't dress pristine, something like a real terrorist would look like. Now you got these guys, just so that it'll make an impact on the masses. They're dressing these guys up that they look like they just stepped out of a movie. They got on pristine black turbans and big sabers, and it looks like you could be watching the Arabian Nights or something. They got the beards all, and they got, they're all lined up, and they got the same flags, and they got the little Arabic writing on the flags, and they got all the Toyota trucks. And of course, again, they're putting people in orange suits, and they're making them kneel down, and they're firing bullets through their heads, or they're decapitating them. All of this stuff is part of this Operation Slingstone, where they're using fear, striking fear into people's hearts. Over in America, and over in Europe, and over in all the countries that they want to control. It just seemed to come out of the woodwork one day, out of a little incident, or an incident about trying to replace a sovereign leader in a foreign country, and his name being Assad at this particular time. So anyway, we've got the walking chop-o-matic group here who's gone through several names. Okay, started off with ISIS, and then it went to ISIL, and then it went to Daesh, and then they just changed names like colors. Okay. to suit their purpose, again, to suit their purpose, and to confuse. Because what does the normal man walking around in America or somewhere know about all these, the origins of all these groups and the origins of all these tribes, and who even knows where these tribes are, and who even knows what the difference is between a Sunni and a Shiite, and who even knows about what Islam teaches, or what, for that matter, even their own religion teaches, or religions of the world. When you think about it, you know, if this group of people had an agenda in India, they might have taken Buddhism and demonized that. So what I'm saying here is that right now we're going through a process that's really insidious. And I'm not sticking up for anybody here, and I'm laying this out so people get it, okay? I want you to think about all the things that I just talked about and all this big agenda that people had or have, and how they use these words and these concepts and these religions and these people as tools for their agenda, okay? And they'll dehumanize a certain group of people, like they dehumanized the Native American. This has happened in all kinds of continents with all kinds of people. But let's take the Native American and say that the powers to be, these same people that were back then, that were thinking the same way as this group of people sitting around a round table, they had their round tables back then, and they dehumanized the native people and they called them savages, okay? And they turned them against, they used different factions with them. Just like the Crows, like I mentioned earlier, were scouts. Or they would go into, in Arizona, they would turn one Apache against the other and hire certain Apaches of a certain faction to work as trackers to track down other Apaches because they were the best trackers in the world. So they're used to using tribal factions. I hope this is making sense to you, because I'm really trying to show you something here. I'm trying to lift a veil. So it doesn't matter what the name of the religion could be, whether it could be Islam or Buddhism or let's say hyperism, or you know, you could have any name and you can have any group of people and you can strike fear into other people's hearts by dehumanizing and causing people to hate and fear a certain faction or group or religious faction of people. Now, let's say that these people are all sitting around this table, they either are atheist or maybe they call themselves Christian. I don't know. Let's look at if they would have used instead of using Islam. See, Islam and Judaism and Christians. They all come from the same source. They all come from Abraham. They all have the same father, Abraham. Okay? And Islam actually came from an influence of Christianity. Okay? Islam is an offshoot in a very real way of Christianity. Why? Because the Prophet Muhammad came into contact with a Christian monk, okay, before he was the Prophet Muhammad, and he was told that he was to be a leader of a group of people, and he changed the whole that changed the whole direction of those group of people in the East, because their worship was of many gods, or in a polytheistic form. But when Mohammed was told by this Christian monk, let's get this straight here now, that he was to be a great leader, he became, as a Christian, and Christians believe in one God, monotheistic, and so Mohammed became monotheistic. So this is the religion that we're talking about here, that everybody fears right now. Islam and Muslim comes from Christianity. That's how ridiculous this whole thing is, okay? Excuse me, where's my water? I know this is a long video. So where were we here? So we got all these people fearing this Muslim religion, and we got all these people fearing the Middle Eastern man, and we got all these people labeling them all as terrorists, just a blanket indictment. And even the refugees that are caught up in the maelstrom of carnage that are trying to escape, and I'm talking refugees meaning men, women, little babies. If you watch the videos and see them getting off the boats, you got little kids, beautiful little kids. You got these camps set up, and there's little kids playing there, innocent little kids just caught up in this stuff. Are they a bunch of big bad terrorists? No. So all this stuff is being used by this group of people sitting around this table with Operation Slingstone. And they're dehumanizing people, and they're causing an eclipse, a massive eclipse of light, of the sun, of the moon. They're causing a dual eclipse, metaphorically, of people's mental facility to think and not just go off knee-jerk reactions as they're being controlled by these anchors or seeds that are being planted in their heads, it is growing stronger and stronger and stronger until every man's hand is against his brother. And there's chaos and mass confusion and factions and governments all at each other's throats in this massive, and one person has Operation Slingstone and another person has Operation, let's say, Sharp Talon, and somebody else has another operation, and these operations are going on, and we the people are sitting here. Some of us are enlightened enough to see this bullshit, okay, because we think outside the box, okay, and because we have a little bit of intelligence, and we can think lucidly, and we can see how they use and manipulate. And we've studied, myself personally, I've studied strategy, I've studied the Unconventional Warfare Manual, I've studied history, I've studied the fall of civilizations. So not everybody's going to see this, okay? Not everybody's going to see this. It's not going to be apparent to everybody. They're just going to latch on to something like, that particular religion is fearful to me because they're moving in for the kill, and why do I know this? Because I've been told this. Now, does that mean that everybody in the Muslim religion is harmless? Hell no. Does that mean that everybody in the Christian religion is harmless? Hell no. They bomb Planned Parenthood clinics and kill doctors, and they've done all kinds of shit. And look at the history of Christians. okay, on their crusades and on their secret agendas. And this goes way back too, to the Knights Templar and all of this stuff, okay? The Masonic order. There's always been agendas, and there have always been these people sitting around a table using people. Now, aren't you getting tired of being used? Are you going to let people strike fear into your heart about a group of people, or in this particular time period, at this particular time, it's Muslim. But before, it's been other people. It's been Indians. It's been the Druids. This has gone on for ages and ages and ages. So rather than get sucked up in fear, step outside of it. Don't be controlled by anybody. Don't be fearful of anybody. Don't be fearful of any religious group. Don't be fearful of people because they have a different skin color. See, they use the racial card too. They use the racial card all the time. They've used it in America for decades. Black against white, white supremacy. Hitler used the racial card. The perfect race, the Aryan race. This stuff is not new. This stuff has been going on for decades. This stuff has caused the fall of civilizations. And I see people just living in abject fear right now of other people. This is all fits into their agenda, and if you buy into it, you're helping them complete their agenda. If you don't like this agenda that I'm talking about, don't help them complete it. Don't make blanket judgments about people. Look at what's going on worldwide, and you will see that the biggest terrorists, they want you to think certain people and certain factions and certain this and that, and they set them up like little puppets, and they make them bad guys, and they're the terrorists. But who's the real terrorist? Who's the real terror? Who is using violence to strike fear into people's heart to complete an agenda? That's what the definition of terrorism is. Using violence and fear, striking fear into people's hearts to complete an agenda. Who's doing that? These people that are sitting around the round table using these alphabet agencies and buying and selling congressmen and presidents and controlling central banks. These are the people that are doing this, what I call Operation Sling Stone. Okay? Now let me say something right now. That's a name I came up with, just as a metaphor for this video. Slinging stones at other people. Okay? Or David defeats Goliath by slinging a stone. Or throwing stones at other people, stoning people, slinging stones. But they have this same operation, okay, and it has a different name. We might not know what that name is. But I had to use a name today that I made up, or maybe I didn't make it up. Maybe I picked it out of the atmosphere. Maybe that is the name of their operation. And if it is, well, then I'm in deep trouble because I just exposed it. But you get my drift here, people. Thunder cares about people, and he cares about his brothers and sisters on the internet and in the world and in the Campfire Council. And So that's why I'm doing this video, to try to enlighten people. There's so many factors involved. There's so much collusion. There's so much use of these methods to control people, and they're using it over and over and over and over again. It's getting into a high-pitched frenzy where people can't even think anymore. They're thinking terror. They're thinking we got this going on in the Middle East. And even the people that don't think, even the people that are just walking around playing with their iPods, this stuff keeps popping up, whether it's on their iPod or whether they're in a room and they hear the background television about, oh yeah, there was a mass shooting today and it was caused by terrorists. That's another thing too. It's another thing too. They'll use false flags or false events, or they'll stage events and plant seeds that way too. So if you're buying into any of these seeds, or if you're allowing these seeds to be planted in your head, you are going to be worse off for it. You are not going to be in a good situation, because it's going to grow within you insidiously until it takes you over and grips your friggin' mind and causes you to be at odds, or to hate, or to dislike, or to fear. When you say you don't like a certain religion, or you don't like this, or you don't like that, and you have to fight it, you really fear it. And that's their goal, that's their agenda, that's their object. Get it, will you? Let go of these fears of, well, you shouldn't fear any religion anywhere. I mean, you should fear nothing. You shouldn't even fear these people that are sitting around the round table doing this shit. And they're the worst terrorists in the world. They've killed more people than any Muslim or any government or any war. They've killed millions. Millions. In the Middle East alone. In our times. Millions of people in the Middle East in our time, right now, in your lifetime. They have killed babies, women, men, blown to bits, butchered. These people that are sitting around the round table have done this. These people that are in control of your government. These people that are in control of the world. So you're going to buy into some religion killed a bunch of people, or this people. How many people? How many people did they kill? They killed 3,000 at one shot on 9/11 like the people sitting around the round table did? Did they kill 200,000 people with the destabilization of Syria? And Libya? And Iraq? And on and on and on. So don't get hooked up on this mundane level with their agenda through this seed planting in your head that's going to make you not see the real problem. Look at where the real problem is. And then when you see where the real problem is, that's really scary. Okay? Because that means, unless you address that real problem, which would be these people sitting around the round table and controlling everything, all of this other shit doesn't mean anything. Doesn't mean shit. Because you're not getting to the root of the problem. Now, I've spelled this out about as good as I can. I've used a metaphor. Jesus used metaphors. Yeshua used metaphor. My metaphor today was, and I might entitle my video that just to get people's attention, not to mislead. But operations sling stone. Slinging stones at others so that you don't look at them. Always pointing the finger over here, saying it's this guy's fault. When really we know whose fault it is. I do. And I'm not going to give an inch on this. People are either going to get it or they're not going to get it, but I'm not going to give an inch. Because I know, I see, and I've tried to explain it the best way I could. Okay? So that people out there can understand what's going down here. So I want you to think about these things that I said today. This is exactly how it's all playing out. Okay? This group of people that sits around the round table they do the darkest things you can imagine. They're into all kinds of deep, dark ritual and they're into the lowest stuff on the earth, pedophilia, all kinds of things. Because this is the kind of shit that entertains them. They kill people just to get off. They like to produce situations that just get them off, even on a sexual level. Because they have all the money in the world, and they've had every form of sex in the world, and they've had every form of pleasure in the world. So they're to the point of being deviant. They're deviant, psychopathic people. And this is what you're dealing with. This is what you're dealing with, and this is what we have to live under right now. And yes, this is a really dark age that we're going through. And it could end any minute. It could end any minute because these psychopaths think that they can use nuclear weapons too. It's like they're almost so bored they want to destroy themselves and take mankind with them. They've run out of ways to titillate themselves. So most of these people are in advanced age anyway, so what difference does it make to them if they take the whole freaking world with them? They're going to die anyway. And there's a huge to them that's an orgasm on some kind of level of huge magnitude to think that they could even maybe destroy people or destroy the planet if they wanted to. That's the psychopathic, not these people down here on the lower level, these religions and these Middle Eastern people, and they're all being used by these sick individuals, and people are buying into it all over, and it's even in politics. You got Trump out there talking about Muslims, and you got this, and you got people rising up and saying, yeah, we'll vote for him. You got the party in France that just won because they're into more of a hardcore approach against refugees. This stuff is insidious, and it's like an infection, and it's spreading all over the planet. And I really don't have a lot of hope for people if you don't get this. If you don't get this, it's over, it's done, they've won. All right. Man, this is stuff I don't even like to talk about, but I have to. I feel compelled to. pass this video around. I don't know how many more videos I'm going to do. I'm almost getting sick of the internet and the people on it. Because everywhere I look, it's either they're deluded or they're buying into some propaganda bullshit. There's very, very, very few alternative outlets I even listen to anymore. You have to discriminate, okay? And not the way they want you to discriminate against your fellow man or against a religion or against, you have to discriminate about what you put into your friggin' mind, and what you accept as real. All right, Thunder's doing this because he really cares about you people, and I hope that if you like this video, you will watch it again and you will listen to it. I know it's rather long, but hey, you got to use parables sometimes. And you got to, you got to attract people's attention. And this Operation Sling Stone is just as real, only it's got another name. Or it might even have that name. Never know. I'm Thunder. I'm out of here. Adios.